Hey everybody, Brian from PFC here. This video is a tutorial that is for our BOBB owners and BOBB users. That's the ballistic off-body bag, of course. And we're going to break this down into 4 parts, talking about 4 things. Number 1 is initial BOBB setup, the way that we think by setting it up on your person you can maximize your potential use out of it. Secondly is deployment of the firearm from the system. Third is restowing, proper restowing of the firearm and resetting of the bag for continued carry. And then fourth, in the event that time allows for it, is actually taking and running the bag, running the risers, and maximizing the armor potential to protect the thorax and then the pelvic girdle as well. So first and foremost, I am a lefty, and you can wear the bag in the manner of your choosing, but what we find is, as far as maximizing potential, that a lefty wears the bag on the front hip area. So it could be worn slightly on the front hip, it could be worn directly on the side, or it could even be pushed slightly around to the small of the back. We actually find, for maximizing its potential, worn slightly to the front position, that in many regards is consistent with appendix style carry. One thing that I should note here is, before we do any of this stuff, setting up of the bag, practicing of the draw or anything, we need to make sure that we have a clear and safe firearm, or we have an inert firearm. Make sure we're also using a safe backdrop area. All firearm safety rules apply. So very, very critical. So that's the first component, where on the clock position I'm going to have it, and for righties that would be transposed. Next is the height of the risers. So we have the adjustment straps on the shoulder strap itself, and this allows us to place the bag at varying conditions or heights. I like to have it where it is sitting where the middle of the bag is essentially even with my hip joint. We don't want to have the bag where it's so low that it's going to require a stooping down action to take and access the firearm, and we don't want to have the bag so high that when we take and we clear the holster, we're actually striking ourselves in the face. When you do find that magic height, I actually strongly encourage you on the back of the straps to take some sort of a marker or a pen or nail polish or something along those lines and make a small mark consistent or in line with one of the buckles that'll sort of show you exactly where you should be on both of the straps. That'll come into play later when we start using the armor system. So again, playing around with those aspects and getting the bag set up. The other thing, your BOBB does not come with anything attached to the pull lanyard on the top. This is a first generation prototype I have, and the ones that you guys are probably running also have a handle on top. Some people like to deploy the bag open from the handle. That's fine, that's their prerogative. I've taken and I've looped some 550 cord through with a small camping style carabiner for tents that I purchased at REI. To gain additional purchase, we also see folks that will sometimes attach their keys or a multitude of things. Make it your own, personalize it. Carabiners are nice, but again, just remember, let's try and stray away from being tactical or overt. That's kind of a no-go. Let's now move on into phase 2 of this, the actual deployment of the firearm from the system. The way that we ideally want to see this done from here is that the support hand is going to come across and it's going to hit your ripcord, pull ring, whatever it is you have attached to that lanyard loop on top or that pull handle. And it is going to pull down to the support side hip. Myself being a lefty, my right hand is grasping that pull ring and it is pulling down to my right hip, deploying the bag and opening it. You can see from the orientation of the firearm where it is. This is very much like an appendix style carry. Where a firearm is actually oriented here is exactly the same place that it would be if underneath my garment I was carrying in an appendix fashion. So now essentially I'm in a appendix open style carry. One other thing that sort of goes back to the first module of this, which was proper setup. The tension screw, the adjustment screw on your BOBB holster. You can run this loose or you can run it tight. Obviously we don't recommend running it exceptionally loose. In the event you do run it tight, however, there's something that we need to talk about. If I have that adjustment, that tension screw run tight, my support hand is going to continue to be required to hold down the covering flap and lock it in place. As I pull the firearm up, the bag is going to want to travel with it. So I'm going to need to create that positive tension unless I'm utilizing the stability loops on the back of the BOBB and I have that actually bound to my belt. Very few people use those loops, so just be mindful of that. In the event you have that tension screw loose, for this demonstration, I have mine loosened a bit. I can actually release the bag, and there is enough weight from the armor, equipment, medical supplies, magazines, etc. that are inside of my BOBB that I can grab the weapon, and with a brisk pull, I can actually clear the holster without holding that stable. So that's something for us to be aware of. So again, We'll now go into the third phase to reset the bag, and then we'll kind of jump back into second phase to show a deployment again. To close back up, again, reholstering the firearm is the traditional manner. We'll grab the bob, and as we fold it closed, the strip of Velcro that is up near the sight plane on the top of the slide is very, very simple, very apparent the way that that folds up. The lower strip of Velcro needs to be tucked underneath the butt of the pistol grip. It needs to be tucked underneath. In the event that we fail to tuck it underneath, the bob will close. It will appear to be closed, but we are open on the back side and the firearm is actually exposed. So we're doing a very poor job of concealing in that regard. So we've got to make sure that we take that lower flap of Velcro and that gets tucked underneath the gun, and then the top flap is reclosed, resealing, and we're back in business. So again, that presentation component, that support hand coming in, tearing the bag open, and either pinning it or releasing it, and then coming out just as we would from an appendix style carry. Completing our engagement, scanning as necessary, maintaining a status check on our firearm, bumping and bumping, then coming back, and then reholstering as necessary before we close the bag back up. This brings us to our fourth phase in this video, where we're going to talk about actually maximizing potential of the armor on the system. So the first thing, we've got to take and we've got to deploy that firearm first. Again, bag comes open, firearm comes out. In the event that we have time or we have an opportunity, there are two ways to take and deploy the armor system. One is to remain slung exactly as I am on the system right now. From here, I'm not going to have to transfer or release the firearm. I simply grab the riser that is most closely located to my face. I pull down on that riser, snugging it up, and then orient the bag as best I can up on my chest and my pelvic girdle. You can see I actually do a pretty good job here. Again, we're back to our 6 by 18 inches of ballistic coverage. That's pretty nice, level 3A. We can also, in the event that time takes and it allows for it, we can be up on firearm just like so. I can transfer that firearm to my support hand, take my dominant arm and swim it through the straps of the bag. Now we're in just a neck slung configuration. From here, I'm going to pull both risers, left riser and right riser. This will center the bag very, very nicely and very level on my chest and my pelvis, and I'm maximizing that high level protection at that point too. This is also most comfortable to take and run the gun from. And it does the best job of orienting our identification panel towards first responders that may show up. I can't emphasize this enough. We believe in this system. We love this system. It's unrivaled in so many environments, including inside of the vehicle, hot summer days, workout shorts that don't have belt loops on it. In many cases, it's actually faster. One of the big cases where it really works, we're coming into the winter season right now. And as we come into winter season and folks wear 4, 5, 6 layers of clothing out in the cold, the BOBB doesn't get affected by that at all. It's the outermost layer. It goes on the outside and we deploy it exactly as we normally would. And speeds on that are unrivaled. But you need to train with it. You need to practice to become more comfortable with it. We're big believers in it, and we think you guys should be too. We hope this video was informative and helpful to you guys, answered some questions. Stay safe.